Good afternoon and welcome to the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce 2020 Virtual Annual Meeting, the coolest virtual meeting of the year, presented by Diamond Joe Casino, Dubuque Bank and Trust, Holiday Inn, Hotel Julian, IBM, Medical Associates Clinic and Health Plans, Midwest One Bank, Q Casino, Tag Communications, and TH Media. We also would like to thank our platinum sponsors, Anderson Corporation, Cartograph, Collins Community Credit Union, Digital Dubuque, Envision, Forge Social, Grand River Center, Grand River Medical Group, ITC Midwest, John Deere Dubuque Works, Mercy One Dubuque, Stonehill Franciscan Services, Town Square Media, Unity Point Health Dubuque, and U.S. Bank. At this time, please welcome your Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Molly Grover.
Thank you so much, Justine. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our 105th annual and our very first history-making virtual annual meeting. We have well over 200 people joining us today, and we want you to enjoy your virtual luncheon, a 9-ounce ribeye with all the trimmings. But jokes aside, these past few months have certainly been some of the most challenging of our lifetime, not only in our businesses, but in our homes, in the way we socialize, and even perform the simplest of tasks. These are definitely unique times, and we are happy that each of you are able to join us today. These times have taught us to think and work outside our comfort zones. Anyone who knows me can attest to my ability, or should I say rather, inability with technology, but this has taught me that you can teach this old dog, new tricks. Your chamber team has rolled up their sleeves and went to work with the same passion as ever. As our mission states, build member success by creating a pro-business future. I want to take a moment to thank our amazing board chair, Mr. Brian Schatz, for his leadership over the past year. When he assumed the role of board chair, I'm certain this is not the term he expected, but he has been a strong, dedicated, wonderful leader through all of this, and I'm so thankful that he is a trusted colleague and a faithful friend. This pandemic has shown the resiliency of our members and has brought to light the support and kindness they have shown their customers and one another. Each business is impacted in some way, the chamber included, and we have all learned to adapt. Members continue to demonstrate the very promise of the Chamber of Commerce, doing together what you can't do alone. It is because of member support that we are able to advance chamber priorities that are aligned with the pillars of our organization in order to create a more robust business climate. They include marketing and promotions, membership growth and development, representing business to government, aka advocacy, professional leadership development, and diversity and inclusion. Despite the world's current circumstances, the chamber has had a great year and we have much to celebrate. Dubuque was just named the 16th best place to live post-COVID. One could make the argument that that is a direct and tangible result of the chamber's keen focus on quality of life and advocacy. Membership remains strong, retention remains far above the national average, and new membership includes new businesses that have opened even during this pandemic. Your chamber has been the voice of business at the local, state, and federal level, reinforcing the great relationships that ensure Dubuque's pro-business priorities are advanced. We've provided our members both new and existing programs and services to help market their businesses during COVID. However, we do recognize the economic impact and uncertainty created by this ongoing COVID crisis, and your chamber will continue to be your advocate, your voice, and your champion in supporting your business growth and success. For over a century, your chamber has helped our members weather wars, depressions, terrorist attacks, natural disaster, and now this pandemic, we know, is no match for our focus and resolve. We are here to help you navigate these extraordinary times as your essential partner to recovery. Your chamber remains an exceptional choice for your business in Dubuque. As we move forward building strategic plans for our community's startup, we need you at the table now more than ever. Your continued voice and engagement as a chamber member is imperative. We must not allow this short-term crisis to impact our long-term success. I'd be remiss if I didn't take this time to recognize my colleagues at the chamber. They are amazing friends and co-workers. We're family, and I am in awe of your passion and dedication. A shout out to the Senior Vice President of Everything, Mr. Barry Gentry, Justine Paradiso, our Marketing and Programs Manager, Ellen Sandberg-Shook, our receptionist and our assistant, Rick Lorenzen, our Director of Finance, Jason Hinkle, our Digital Director of Design, and Sammy Bruck, who is our Membership Manager as well. Thank you all. I appreciate each and every one of you. Once again, thank you for making this virtual meeting a priority in your schedule. We encourage you to enjoy your virtual lunch. It's now time to introduce the man of the hour. And, you know, we may not yet have a vaccine, but we do have the right shots, Mr. Brian Schatz. It is my privilege to welcome to the podium the 2019-2020, the year of COVID, Chamber Chair, Mr. Brian Schatz.
Please applaud from wherever you are for your 2019-2020 Board Chair, Brian Schatz, COO of Medical Associates.
Hello, everyone. I appreciate that thunderous applause. I'm sure you'd all rather have a vaccine than me, but today you get me. Last year on June 20th, 2019, I stood before you in person at the Hotel Julian versus virtually this year. And I said I was extremely honored and humbled to be asked to serve as the chair of what possibly is the greatest chamber of commerce in the country. You know, this has remained true. What an honor it's been. The chamber is a top-notch organization run by a talented and committed staff with Molly and her team, and it boasts a truly engaged and committed membership. And that's all of you, the members who make up this chamber, who have made it a year of true delight as I've served you in this role. I appreciate you granting me the trust and the opportunity to lead. I've benefited from the wisdom and counsel of many of you, also including the immediate past chair, Tom Wagner. And Wags, you got to do it for a couple of years. And a very capable executive committee, Gretchen Brown, John Burns, Scott D'Souza, Mike Fortman, Darren Harmon, Tyson Leyendecker, Rob Reinert, and Sandy Peters. Thank you to each one of you. I also want to do a shout out to acknowledge all the members of the board who have served with me this past year. You have made this job easier and you've made it enjoyable. I spoke with the current board during our planning session last May about embracing this time as our time to work hard and make a difference in our business community. I'm reminded all of us at the meeting last year that we are not the chamber of everything. We are the Chamber of Commerce. And as such, we're not pro-R, we're not pro-D, but we're pro-B, as in pro-business. And the chamber stands for the success and health of business in our area. And it is the voice, I believe, in creating and sustaining a robust and healthy business climate as we live out together our mission to build member success by creating a pro-business future. Chamber work is always about the future. We've talked about that. And your chamber has continued this year as a pro-business advocate for the future of your business and all the businesses that are with us as members. So how have we done? Well, I'm glad you asked. You know, to be honest, a few months ago, I was planning the speech. My mic drop moment was going to be when I proudly hailed the opening of the Southwest Arterial and the start of air service in Dubuque. And then, well, you know, COVID hit. Who knew, right? But the Southwest Arterial is actually very close now. The Disciple Interchange is open. We're actively in pursuit of a potential air carrier. So hang on to your hats. This is going to happen. But I'm certainly hoping that you will all give us a break and not evaluate the success of the chamber this year based on the quality of our forecast luncheon and the expert forecasts in January. Let's take a minute just to review a few of those items. In the area of workforce, Kelly Cooper, Executive Director of the Dubuque Area Labor Management, predicted a healthy workforce. But she failed to mention, Kelly, you failed to mention the spike to 20% unemployment. And in the area of banking and finance, Tyson Leyendecker, Executive Vice President and Market President with Dubuque Bank and Trust, clearly, Tyson, you under-forecasted the banking year. All of those federal and state dollars rolling into our local institutions, payroll protection program, other grants, and cash for loans. You know, Tyson, if you had thought this through, you would have been up there selling Heartland stock from the stage. And then we had entrepreneurship and innovation talk with my friend Bob Woodward, publisher and general manager of TH Media. And I actually think, Bob, you did hit a home run on this one. I mean, who has not actually innovated quickly and dramatically in their business this year as a result of the COVID pandemic? Great job, Bob. A+ there. Shout out leadership of Dubuque class 2001. Tourism, Keith Ray, President and CEO of Travel Dubuque. You know, Keith, maybe you should have renamed your speech the anti-tourism forecast. And by the way, we're all still waiting for that Major League Baseball game. And then in retail, Ben Graham, owner of Graham's Style Store. Yeah, Ben, if you're on, I don't have anything to say. You've really suffered enough. Everyone, I need you to get out to Graham's, purchase a shirt, maybe a pair of underwear. You know, Ben needs to feed his kids. And then we had healthcare. My friend and colleague, Chad Wolbers, President and CEO of Unity Point Health Dubuque. Chad? Chad? Really? Really? No warning. Epic fail. But seriously, there you have it. So our forecast missed by a little bit this year. And albeit it's been an exciting year in the past 3 months. So what have we accomplished this year? Lots. From an inside the chamber look, we have been exceptional fiscal stewards of your member investments, including pivoting on a dime with the onset of COVID, restructuring overnight, which is what is predominantly an event and program-based business format, into a digital online chamber. And this board and chamber team have maintained the chamber on a strong financial footing going into this next fiscal year. This year, we had a record-setting sponsorship revenue, an increase of 7.6% over the prior fiscal year. And I think that shows the value of a chamber investment. Molly and her team have provided exceptional leadership for the chamber through the COVID-19 crisis. They expeditiously and successfully transitioned to remote chamber office. They implemented VPN so they could sustain office operations. They launched many new digital benefits, including everybody's favorite, Barry's Bites, Member Minute, Steals and Deals, and the Daily Dose. And they leveraged new technology platforms to support members in our programming, like this, the Go-To webinar. The chamber team has successfully executed this year 3 chamber capital projects, including an IT technology upgrade for the team, advancement of meeting technologies for the boardroom, which in part is making this possible today, and replacement of our heating and cooling equipment on the roof so the building is well served. But big news, we submitted and we were awarded this year the DOT Small Community Air Service Development Program grant, SCASD grant. This has been a multi-year extended priority for the chamber. And unfortunately, this was announced in February, just before all the planes stopped flying. So this year we welcomed both the governor and the lieutenant governor to Dubuque, hosted by the chamber's Young Professionals Group. By the way, the most successful YP organization in the state of Iowa at over 2,300 engaged members. We provided increased professional development opportunities for the chamber staff. We launched several new programs, including the one we're going to celebrate today, Coolest Places to Work, and also inside the CEO studio and a new executive meet and greet. But much of the story this year, and especially the past several months, can be told on the advocacy front. The chamber delivered a number of advocacy wins at a state, federal, and local level. In representing business to state government this year, the chamber advocated for COVID-19 liability limitation protection for employers, advocated for workforce development funding in Future Ready Iowa, for broadband infrastructure funding as part of Empower Rural Iowa, advocated for reauthorization of the Iowa Reinvestment Act, which brought an additional $100 million in funding to quality of life initiatives. We advocated for tax policy changes that included avoiding a tax increase for companies with foreign income. We sent a letter to Governor Reynolds requesting that Dubuque County be safely reopened as promptly as we could. We partnered with the governor's office on a reopening business webinar series. We hosted virtual meeting with Iowa Economic Development Authority Director Debbie Durham. So those are some of the things on a state level. In representing business to the federal government, the chamber advocated for all 3 phases of the CARES Act, for the Payroll Protection Flexibility Act and the inclusion of casinos and museums in PPP. We're advocating for phase 4 to include local governments and all nonprofits. We advocated for clarification of FAQ 46, which some refer to as the safe harbor rule, for PPP loans up to $2 million. And we've hosted virtual meetings with both senators from the Iowa delegation, Senator Ernst and Senator Grassley, and also Representative Finkenauer. And there are additional areas of chamber advocacy and engagement with government this year, including supporting the city of Dubuque in their request for government inclusion and PPP, advocating for downtown parking charges for ramps and meters to be halted during the local shutdown, aiding local businesses with their IEDA loan processes, supporting a local helpline for area businesses in response to COVID, championing member restaurants through the website and through digital promotions. We supported hybrid phase 4 model for Five Flags, and then in the wake of the pandemic, we took a lead position in asking for the referendum to be tabled due to the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. So it has been a whirlwind of a year, and your chamber has been active and engaged, and we're thankful for your engagement as well. In conclusion, repeating what I said in June of 2019, we all realize that many of the things the chamber supports and focuses on and advocates for, these are things that none of us could do alone, but they are things that benefit us all. And so together, we always achieve more, and together we will continue to build member success by creating a pro-business future. I want to thank you again for the honor of serving as your chair. A special thank you to my wife, Lynette, and my employer, Medical Associates Clinic and Health Plans, for providing me the latitude to do so. And I am pleased to hand you off this next year to the committed and capable leadership of Darren Harmon. Now at this time, I would like to acknowledge the members of my board, the 2019-2020 Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. They are Darren Harmon, Kinsinger, Harmon, Conradi, Attorneys at Law, Scott D'Souza, the Friedman Group, Tyson Leyendecker, Dubuque Bank and Trust, Gretchen Brown, Stonehill Franciscan Services, Mike Fortman, TH Media, John Burns, John Deere Dubuque Works, Sandy Peters with the Anderson Corporation, Ben Graham, Graham's Style Store, Rob Reinert, Northwestern Mutual, Tom Wagner, Wagner Accounting and Tax Services, Mike Fitzpatrick with Midwest One Bank, Sherry Greenwood, American Realty, Dan Johnson, Dubuque Senior High School, Jason Knuckle, Kunkel and Associates, Josh Malamud, Cartograph, Brian Rakestraw, Hugh Casino, Chad Richardson, Richardson Motors, Wendy Rundy, Diamond Joe Casino, Andy Sherman, IBM, Justin Stinson, I'm On Communications, Kay Takis with Mercy One Dubuque, Dean Wilgenbush, US Bank, Chad Wolbers, Unity Point Health Dubuque, Mitzi Yordi, Grand River Center, Dr. Liang Chi Wee, the ex officio representative from Greater Dubuque Development Corporation with Northeast Iowa Community College, Tammy Ryan, ex officio, Dubuque Community School District, Jay Wickham, supervisor of Dubuque County, ex officio for the county, and Scott McGuire, ex officio with the Young Professionals Group, Green State Credit Union. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for the time and talent that you have given to the chamber, and also acknowledge a few board members that are rolling off this year that have served their full terms. Dan Johnson, Dubuque Community Schools, Jason Knuckle with Kunkel and Associates, Sherry Greenwood with American Realty, Rob Reinert, Northwestern Mutual, and Tom Wagner, Wagner Accounting and Tax Service, and Dr. Wee with NICC. Thank you to all of you. And now, it's my pleasure, it's time to present the Annual Chairs Award. This award is the most distinguished honor that is bestowed by the Chamber. Each year, it's one of the nice things, the chair of the board gets to select an individual, a business, or an entity, program, or organization that he or she believes is deserving of recognition and praise based on their commitment to the Chamber, their commitment to the business community, and to their respective industry. It's a great honor. Past recipients have demonstrated exceptional leadership, selflessness, and generous contributions to our community and to our chamber. These deserving award winners make a difference in our lives, both personally and professionally. They are recognized in Dubuque as icons who contribute immeasurable value to the betterment of the area and to the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce. So today's recipient has got to be one of the most intelligent and the most easygoing people in town. Always patient and willing to participate or lead whatever the situation calls upon. And that's exactly the kind of leadership for which this award is intended. When someone has their own business and yet donates extensive hours each week to the Chamber of Commerce, well, you don't just take that for granted. The Chamber leadership and the Chamber board has all noticed this individual. As I write this, I can see in my mind the calmness on his face when we asked this person to moderate an event or to speak at ribbon cuttings, to lead economic impact efforts, to attend the many evening and lunchtime social programs, and so much more, being a visible face for the work of the chamber. With a kind hand, he led this chamber for not just 1 year, but for 2 years as chair. And he had given wholeheartedly to any and all efforts that he was asked. As an accountant by trade, when it comes to the right equation, the numbers all add up. And I am proud to present this award to my friend and colleague, Mr. Tom Wagner. Would you join me?
At this time, Tom, if you could, oh, there he is, sharing the webcam.
Hey, Tom.
He needs to unmute himself. Can you unmute yourself, Tom, and give us a few words of wisdom?
Speaking words of wisdom is not my forte. I'll leave that to Mr. Schatz. Apparently, this would have been good for last year when we did do the shots. But on behalf of myself, I would like to thank you. I've appreciated the opportunity I've had to serve with the chamber over the last, almost 10 years. Molly and her team have been exemplary. The relationships that I've formed, the opportunities that I've been afforded to meet, a various range of people across the spectrum have been great. And again, I'm humbled by the award, and thank you very much. Want to, of course, thank my wife Amy and my family for putting up with the Molly and the chamber for so long, and Barry especially. But again, thank you very much. I appreciate the award, and I'm glad I'm leaving the chamber in such capable hands with you and Darren and everyone else. So it'll be interesting to not be in front of this every day. So I'll still stick around on the finance committee, so you can't quite get rid of me yet. But again, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I am excited to share with you our first annual Coolest Places to Work. The Chamber, in conjunction with the Skywalk Group, are excited to recognize some outstanding businesses who have gone above and beyond to bring the cool factor. Determining a company's cool factor can be a little subjective, so the Chamber partnered with SWG, a professional services business who produces spectacular results through their RPO recruiting and human resources consulting solutions. As we get prepared to announce the ranking of the top 17 finalists, we want to share with you how we remove subjectivity and how SWG, with a survey of over 40 questions spanning 8 categories, was able to help us quantify the coolest places. To qualify, a company had to nominate itself or be nominated by another company. Skywalk Group then submitted a questionnaire to employees and management for each company and conducted an analysis of the return questionnaires. The application process was open to all chamber member businesses and organizations. To be considered, at least 60% of employees needed to complete the survey for the nominated company to make it to the next round of deliberation and be considered coolest places to work. We then grouped the companies into 3 categories: small, 29 or fewer employees, medium, 30 to 99 employees, and large, 100 employees or more. Finally, we ranked the companies by scores, which were determined by the overall survey averages based on employee ratings. Our board chair, Brian Schatz, will now reveal the results.
Well, this is an exciting new program. Thank you, Voice in the Sky. We will first recognize the 17 finalists who were nominated, and then I will announce the 3 winners from each category and the grand prize winner, the company that has been determined to be the coolest place to work, regardless of size. Our coolest places to work finalists are the Colts Youth Organization, East Central Intergovernmental Association, Eide Bailly, LLP, Executive Management and Real Estate, Ltd, Fig Leaf, Forge Social, Hills and Dales, Hospice of Dubuque, Hotel Julian Dubuque, IBM, I'm On Communications, LLC, Kunkel and Associates, Incorporated, Mercy One Dubuque Medical Center, Cincinnati Dominicans Mound Center, Stonehill Franciscan Services, That's My Dog, and Western Dubuque High School. Now we're going to start with the large business category. If you're all out on your desks or phones, just go ahead and give me a little drum roll. Drum roll, please. The winner of the large business category is Hills and Dales.
Accepting this award is Marilyn Altoff, CEO of Hills and Dales. Marilyn, do you have anything to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
We can
can.
hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to share my webcam, but in any case, I want to extend, first of all, our deep appreciation to Brian. Thank you, and all of the Dubuque Chamber. We're just this is so awesome to be recognized as the coolest place to work in the large business category. We know we're among an amazing group of nominated businesses and organizations who impact the Dubuque community in so many valuable ways. Our employees, which must be congratulated in recognizing this acknowledgement, will be delighted, really delighted to learn of this pretty cool award. So once again, thank you.
Congratulations, Marilyn and Hills and Dales. Well earned. Now, on to our medium-sized business category. Drum roll, please. The winner of this year's Coolest Place to Work in the medium business size category is Kunkel and Associates.
Accepting this award is Jason Knakel, CEO, Kunkel and Associates.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks,
Okay.
Justine. When I found out we received this award, I thought about what makes Kunkel & Associates cool. I thought about our people. I thought about our table tennis in the office. I thought about the beer 30s we have when we have a great week. I thought about everything we do within the community. I thought about our trip to Vegas that we do every time we meet a company goal. But the biggest thing was that everybody has fun together. It's what makes our culture, and I think it's what makes us cool. You know, Kunkel & Associates is an insurance brokerage specializing in transportation, healthcare, and property and casualty insurance. And when you deal with an insurance all day long, you got to do a lot of things to make it cool. And I think our teammates do that. So I want to send a huge thank you to all my teammates and also the Chamber for presenting such a great award. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Jason. Congratulations, Kunkel and Associates. Well deserved. And now we're on to the small business category. Drum roll, please. As the winner of the Coolest Place to Work in the small business category, Forge Social.
Accepting this award is Anna Johnson, Creative Solutions Manager with Forge Social.
Hi, everybody. Being recognized as one of the coolest places to work here in the Dubuque area is a very big honor for our small company. I have a virtual version of the award here, which seems appropriate for this virtual meeting. But Forge Social was started 4 years ago by Chad Chanley, our president and CEO, and Christine Mellis, our director of sales and operations. From the start, they knew that they wanted our company to be different. As a social media marketing agency, we're proud to go beyond the post for our clients, which is our way of showing that there's a lot of care and attention behind each post we develop. Most importantly, the relationships we build among our team and with each of our clients. I'm truly blessed to work with the outstanding range of talents on our team, the people who possess those talents and their personalities, which bring all of Forge's work to life. On behalf of Forge, I want to say thank you so much to the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the Skywalk Group. And I want to say thank you to all of the people and businesses who have made it possible for Forge Social to become what it is. The Kendall Hunt family, our clients, partners, our own team making what we do possible, our community's support, and of course, the rest of the Forge Social team, the cool people beyond all of our posts. We wouldn't be cool without all of you.
Very well stated. Congratulations, Anna. Congratulations, Forge Social. Well earned. And now we do have a grand prize winner from our 3 winners in the 3 different size categories. We've selected a grand prize winner. And the grand prize winner of this year's first ever Coolest Place to Work is Hills and Dales. Congratulations, Marilyn.
Accepting this award, Marilyn Altoff, CEO of Hills and Dales. Marilyn, are you out there in the world?
I am. My webcam says it's being used, so I'm not sure quite what that means, but I am forever grateful to receive this award. Just absolutely thrilled to accept it as the coolest places to work on behalf of our 460 employees. Just learning that we were among some of Dubuque's finest workplaces and businesses as a finalist in April was itself a humbling and rewarding accomplishment. From the initial announcement from the chamber that they were going to have this competition and the invitation to ask our employees to participate in the survey, there was really never a doubt in my mind that they would provide the reasons to be considered as the coolest workplace in Dubuque. Our employees represent some of the best and honorable persons to represent Hills and Dale's mission and values to our hundreds of clients and residents each day. We have 16 different work locations in Dubuque, and we engaged, encouraged our staffs to participate in the survey in many fun ways. Our management team embraces any opportunity to promote who we are and the impact of our mission of building meaningful lives. Hills and Dales is the coolest workplace because we can embrace our mission and values every single day. Our work happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This week just happens to be our annual Employee Recognition Week, just another example of assuring that we have a fun and inviting work environment. It's also cool knowing that most of our employees are directly engaged each day in making dreams and desires for some of the most vulnerable and challenged children and adults in our community become a reality. Side by side, we focus on what each person needs to make their life just a little bit better. From enjoying community events to learning a new skill or recognizing a new ability to communicate or supporting a young person with a new job, each day is a celebration and fun is just part of the job description. A lifespan of memorable moments happens from babies to teenagers. The smiles make even the worst work days awesome. We pride ourselves in achieving the living wage goal for our direct employees and being a leader and trend advocate for our human services industry. We recently achieved reducing our position vacancy by 19% in 1 year, which is very cool. So Brian, we did achieve part of that workforce goal. So you can include that in your achievements. However, there are many challenges for our businesses today that were not present back in February and the beginning of 2020. COVID-19 and the worldwide pandemic has put Hills and Dales in the epicenter of required essential services work, along with healthcare and many other industries. There is no footprint of the impact in this historical time as we all are creating a new path, a new journey, or new normal as we continue to respond now and in the future. For our agency, the work has become focused on protecting people, closing of service programs, and reacting to a new set of regulatory requirements that are unprecedented. Coolest Workplace now includes the best way to wear personal protective equipment. Masks, barriers, and face shields are the new attire for our teams who remain working with the kids and adults each day, all the while maintaining our mission to build a meaningful life. And of course, celebrating wherever and whenever we can. Dedication and commitment to a job during this pandemic are also, in my opinion, a measurement of cool. Just one example to share is an employee making the decision to stay in an isolation bedroom with a vulnerable young man who had COVID-19 for 36 days straight, leaving only to take the person to their required medical treatment 3 times a week. The negative test day was a celebration for sure, and the many Hills and Dales heroes' stories make the efforts all worthwhile. In closing, I just want to encourage everyone to be humble, be kind, Stay focused on the opportunities that are present and will present. And of course, stay well, be safe, wash your hands, cover your cough, stay home if you're sick, and practice social hygiene. And again, thank you for this cool award.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And I know Brian thinks he is about to leave the stage, but we would like you to stay put for 1 second as our President and CEO, Molly Grover, has a little something to share with you.
Oh, my.
Brian, on behalf of the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce staff, we wanted to provide you a token of our appreciation for your leadership the past year. And so what do you get? The man that has everything. We know that you are a passionate music lover and a musician too.
Wow.
And so we thought that this would be a cool way to commemorate your year and to maybe hang it in your office.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Wow.
And
It's
tuned.
It's a guitar, everybody. And it says on the bottom, 2019-2020 board chair, Brian Schatz. You've heard enough from me today. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. And now it's my honor to invite to the podium your incoming chair and to pass the baton to him for the 2020 to 2021 year, your incoming chair, Darren Harmon.
Thank you, Brian. It's situated here in front of the camera. I want to begin by thanking all of you for attending and congratulating the winners of the coolest places to work. It says something when you win the coolest places to work in the coolest town there is. I also want to thank Brian Schatz for his leadership this past year, those who are going out on the board, and welcome those who are coming onto the board. I look forward to your contributions. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that these are strange and interesting times. It's interesting also to note that our keynote speaker today is Amelia Rose Earhart. Her namesake is quoted as saying, "The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity." Those words are never more important than right now, at this moment, with all of the challenges that we are going through in our businesses and our lives. So what do these words mean for us individually? And what do they mean for us as a chamber as well? I can tell you personally that when I came to Dubuque 31 years ago, I didn't know a soul with the exception of the people I worked with and my wife, who was my fiance at the time, Terry. I moved here knowing little about Dubuque, knowing little about the people, but just like Amelia Earhart, we made the decision to act and to become involved in the community. At that time, my wife and I both joined the Dubuque JCs, which was then known as the Junior Chamber of Commerce. We became very active in that organization, and I worked slowly up through the different chairs and became involved, and I think I held about every position in that organization. And I realized that there was importance to community involvement and the connections that would result from that involvement. Now here I am 31 years later, heading up the board of the only 5-star chamber in the whole state of Iowa. I'm excited to continue to be part of this community and to contribute to it. So while acknowledging these are trying times, there is no better time for each of us to become involved in our community, to become engaged and help those around us. You know, it's interesting when you hear from stories of various athletes who go to these children's hospitals. They always say that they get more out of it than they put in as far as their time and efforts are concerned. And the same can be said of community involvement, and specifically with this chamber. And I encourage each of you to take this challenge to become more involved in your community and help those who need it. I started with the chamber many years ago, starting with the government committee and then went on the business retention and expansion committee. Then I stepped away for a while to help with the kids and coaching and that sort of thing until Molly invited me back about 6 years ago to be on the board. And I've enjoyed my time here and worked my way up through the various chairs and now excited to become chairman of the board. Oftentimes outsiders who have not been involved in the chamber wonder what the heck our chamber really does. Well, I think you heard some of the numerous accomplishments that we've made over the past years and over the past year, I should say, and the advocacy that this chamber does on a daily basis and the efforts that the staff and the volunteers put forth. And it's really remarkable. The Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce has been around for 105 years, and that history means that the Chamber has weathered wars, disasters, depressions, tragedies, and pandemics. Prior to this latest pandemic and these latest economic uncertainties and civil unrest, I don't think there's anyone who could say that our chamber wasn't going strong. And I'm highly confident that will continue again. So going forward, my primary goal for the coming year as your chairperson is to help the chamber, to help you, and make sure that your business thrives in these difficult times. If there's anything that we can do to help you, let us know. And as you've heard, we can get things done. The advocacy of this group is important. And you've heard we're all in this together. Truly, the chamber is in it with you and willing to help you. My secondary goal is to secure additional air service. Namely, I'd like to make sure that we bring another carrier to this wonderful airport of ours. For those of you who've utilized our terminal, you've seen how convenient and comfortable it is to fly to Dubuque. For those of you who have yet to do so, I hope you will once our options are expanded, because we need to utilize that service once it comes, and it's going to come. I'm also pleased to report that the chamber continues to be proactive when it comes to diversity. The former committee known as the Minority Business Council will now be reformatted in the future to become the Committee on Diversity and Inclusion, and refocus our energies to a broader scope and with greater purpose and intention. I look forward to this evolving committee and working with them. So I'll keep my remarks brief, and I started with a quote from Amelia Earhart, and we'll end with a quote from Henry Ford. He said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." That is meaning to me. And while it's hard for us to put a positive face during these times, attitude means everything. So let's start today and build on it for tomorrow. Thank you. And those conclude my remarks, but I want to now introduce our incoming board for the 2021 year. Based on our bylaws and having met the election deadline and criteria, I'm pleased to welcome our new incoming members of our board. Kevin Ehrlich from Tricor Insurance, Nicole Hutchinson from Cetera Integrated Health and Wellness, Dave Sandman from Remax Realty, Kim Wolf from Pepper Sprout. Returning board members include Gretchen Brown from Stonehill Franciscan Services, John Burns, John Deere Dubuque Works, Scott D'Souza from Friedman Group, Mike Fortman, TH Media, Mike Fitzpatrick, Midwest One Bank, Ben Graham, Graham Style Store, Tyson Lindecker, Dubuque Bank and Trust, Josh Malamud from Cartograph, Sandy Peters, Anderson Corporation, Brian Rakestraw, Q Casino, Chad Richardson from Richardson Motors, Andrew Sherman, IBM, Justin Stinson from Imon Communications, Kay Takis from Mercy One Dubuque, Dean Wilgenbush, US Bank, Chad Wolbers from Unity Point Health Dubuque, Mitzi Yorty, Grand River Center. Our ex officio members for 2021 are going to be from the GDDC, Wendy Rundy from Diamond Joe Casino, Tammy Ryan from the school board, who's the school board chair, Jay Wickham from Dubuque County Supervisor, and from YP, Scott McGuire from Green State Credit Union. Our 2021 division chairs membership is Gretchen Brown from Stonehill Franciscan Services. Community Development Chair is Andy Sherman from IBM. Government Chair Sandy Peters from Anderson Corporation. Marketing Chair Mike Fortman from TH Media. And Diversity Chair John Burns, John Deere Dubuque Works. And our 2021 officers, our President and CEO Molly Grover, our chairperson, yours truly, Darren Harmon, Kinzinger Harmon Conradi Attorneys. First vice chair and your president for next year, Scott D'Souza from Friedman Group. Second vice chair, Kay Takis from Mercy One Dubuque. Treasurer, Tyson Lindecker, Dubuque Bank and Trust. And immediate past chair, Brian Schatz from Medical Associates. That seems like a large board, and it is, but it's a diverse group from various businesses throughout our community, and it's a good representation of our community. And this board really works well together. I've seen it over the past 6 years, and I look forward to working with each of you going forward. So let's give a round of applause, if you will, for our new incoming board, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren. At this time, I would like to introduce today's keynote speaker. In 1937, Amelia Mary Earhart attempted to fly around the globe. Unfortunately, she disappeared somewhere over the South Pacific, never to be seen again. In 2014, Amelia Rose Earhart completed her own 28,000-mile flight around the globe in a single-engine aircraft. Her family shared the same last name as the first Amelia, spurring her to fall in love with aviation. The modern-day Amelia Earhart believes that the most important lesson she learned during her journey is that to truly succeed and grow along the way, we have to learn to love the turbulence. Amelia is a commercial pilot, NBC journalist based in Denver, Colorado, and speaks internationally about what it means to reach our full potential through bold adventure and a solid flight plan. Amelia's story isn't all about smooth sailing. It's going to be a bumpy ride, so keep your seatbelts fastened. And please welcome Amelia Rose Earhart.
Well, hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll go into play mode and get started here. I just have to start off with a big thank you. Thank you for inviting me and trusting me to be a part of this virtual event. This is a risky undertaking, right? We all have to trust that there's value and meaning in the connection and the message. So I'm pouring my heart in because today's event actually falls on an incredibly important date for me. Today is the 6-year anniversary that I began my flight around the world, and that is by chance. But 6 years ago, I was flying between Denver to Oakland, California to start my flight, and the very next day, flew to Denver, flew to Miami, and then continued all the way around the globe. And we'll get to all of that. But I do want to extend a very sincere thank you. I'm honored to be here. And again, we're going to talk turbulence because by the end of my speech today, I want you to believe that you have the opportunity to look forward to your next round of turbulence in an airplane even, because Barry and I chatted about this when we had one of our first planning calls. He said, you know what, I'm a little afraid of turbulence. And I said, Barry, don't be afraid of it because just like a car, when you hit a pothole on the ground, it rattles you and it reminds you that you're on the road, right? You sit up a little straighter, you grab the wheel and you think, okay, I got to keep my eyes on the road. It reminds you that you're driving, and turbulence in the sky reminds you that you're in flight. Turbulence doesn't cause crashes in airplanes. It reminds the pilots that the environment that they're flying in is always changing. And when I feel that turbulence, I know I'm becoming a better pilot when I learn to course correct and navigate around and through it. So let's dive right in. I want to start off with a story that I think a few of you will get a good chuckle out of. I'm taking you back to Switzerland, 2014. This is right before I launched on my big journey around the world. I had quit my TV job. I had raised $2 million to make this trip happen through corporate partners and partnerships who would help me put this trip together. And I was asked to go to the European Business Aviation Conference in Geneva to go and talk about this flight I was about to do in a Pilatus PC-12, which is a single engine airplane. Imagine that, a flight around the world, one single engine. If anything goes wrong, you're going down in the water because I was setting out to recreate Amelia Earhart's flight. Well, see, this press event leading up to the morning, they said, be out there at 9:30. It's a business conference, so everyone's dressed up in suits and heels. And I get out there and I'm positioned right on the plane. Well, as a news person and as a woman, I tend to dress up if I want to. So of course I've got on a pair of heels. I'm not flying that day, right? They stand me on the steps and we snap a few photos and a crowd starts to gather because at those aviation events, you think, should I know this person, right? So here's the thing. Crowd starts to gather, and out of the back of the crowd, I hear a man's voice. And I hear, hey, I see you taking a picture next to this pretty little airplane here. Would you like a pilot in your photo with you? Now, mind you, I had been flying for about 10 years at this point, and I was about to fly this plane all the way around the globe, 28,000 miles. And so if you know me at all, and I'm sure Barry will get a kick out of this, a closer look at my face says, oh, this is going to be fun, right? I thought maybe I can teach this guy a lesson. So I said, excuse me, what was that? I couldn't quite hear you. And he said, well, I fly this plane, so I thought I could show you around, show you some of the bells and whistles and, you know, take a look inside. And I said, well, sir, there is a pilot in my photo. And I kid you not, he leaned over and he looked inside the airplane. And that is one of those moments the very next day when the magazine came out and the picture was there and they were talking about my flight. I thought, that's one of those moments when it feels so good to exceed the expectations that others have for what we are capable of accomplishing. That guy looked at me and thought, there's no way in heck that girl would fly that plane around the world. Why would she be standing up there? Sure enough, I did. But you know what? There was a lot of turbulence along the way. So let's get into this backstory because I've got a crazy name. And when you tell your friends that you heard Amelia Earhart speak this morning, they're probably going to think that you've got, something going on, that you're maybe a little off. So we'll start there. I was named after this woman. We all know her story, Amelia Mary Earhart. Back in the 1930s, she was the biggest celebrity of her time, and she was breaking boundaries. She attempted to fly around the world in 1937, but unfortunately, she never finished her flight. Now, I've been obsessed with Amelia my whole life, obviously. My parents gave me the name because my dad had the same last name. And my mom and dad, when they met, my mom said, Glenn, we've got an opportunity here. We are naming our little girl Amelia Earhart. And my dad said, ooh, that's a terrible idea. Debbie, what if our daughter feels like she has to be a pilot? What if our daughter feels like she's got to live up to this huge namesake that she's named after? And what if someday our daughter feels like she has to fly around the world in order to live up to this name? Well, my dad's a very smart man because I felt all of those things. And a big part of the reason why, as a little kid, I started feeling the pressure, even at this age, I can remember going to school and just being treated a little differently than the other kids by my teachers because I had such a unique name. Now, there was always a story passed down through my family that we were somehow distantly related to the first Amelia Earhart. Well, as a little kid and as a teenager, I believed it. I would ask questions, but of course, I trusted what my family said about my genealogy. Well, fast forward through my college years and things just start getting more and more complicated. People are asking more questions about my name. And I thought, I've got to look into this. I've got to figure out how Amelia Rose Earhart is related to Amelia Mary Earhart, mostly just to shut people up because I thought, gosh, I'm getting this question a lot. So I hired a genealogist when I was in college. She came back to me a couple weeks later and said, Amelia, here's the thing. You are related to the first Amelia Earhart. Trace back through the 1700s, your families lived in adjacent counties in Pennsylvania. She had all these reasons why we were connected. She said, but in order to find the exact pinpoint connection, we need to trace all the way back to those European records. So I went through my high school, college years, just continuing to be connected to Amelia in a way where I believed I was related. And so I did everything I could to learn about her, and that's when I started flying in college. Now, my mom always did a really great job of teaching me about Amelia, and she would share quotes, and she would really emphasize the incredible message that Amelia left and the lessons that she passed along. And I love the foresight that she had here. Back in the 1930s, Amelia knew that women of tomorrow would fly tomorrow's planes. And I thought, gosh, what a challenge. Wouldn't it be cool if someday this Amelia Earhart could fly around the globe? So I got a job in TV, and here I was doing the weather and the traffic in the morning. I was waking up at 2:30 a.m. and then spending my afternoons flying, and I loved it so much because as my aviation career developed, I thought, my goodness, I can fly, I can work, I can do it all, and maybe someday I can plan this big crazy trip around the globe. So I started sort of secretly planning on the side. I thought, gosh, what would it take? And by that point, I had had enough aviation connections through my private pilot's license, which I worked at golf courses and restaurants, 2 or 3 jobs at a time to afford those things while paying my way through school as well. So I want you to know that my passion was in it. My junior year of college is when I got my first TV job, so things just started aligning. So I started changing out those fancy dresses that I would wear to work and swap them out for much more slimming outfits like this, which was a suit that I had to wear to do open water survival training and learn how to survive if my single engine plane that I'm flying around the globe for 10 hours at a time over the open ocean were to crash. You have to learn how to survive those situations. So my life was changing pretty rapidly, and I was feeling very confident that the next Amelia Earhart was going to fly around the globe. So I started a foundation, and I wanted to put other girls through flight school, right? Spread the love and start getting more and more women excited about this just boundless career path that I had found that was just filling me with so much joy. So I keep going towards my goal, and here I find myself in a situation where the reality of a potential flight around the world is here. I had somehow talked 28 different corporations, and we're talking Pilatus, which is a Swiss aircraft company, Pratt & Whitney, which is an engine manufacturer, Honeywell Aerospace, GoPro, Remova Luggage, these incredible brands were suddenly interested in me and my flight because I had really created a mission and a journey and a reason to recreate this and just give it that, you know, that feel-good story of recreating a flight, honoring history, and inspiring girls of the future. So part of what I did in organizing the flight and taking the 2 years to plan it all was organizing the trip itself based around a single engine plane and recreating Amelia's route. Well, as a lot of you in the audience know, working in the insurance world, and that is a lot to handle. The plane was worth about $4.5 million, and I was able to borrow it from the manufacturer. But we installed an additional 200-gallon fuel tank. We modified it in several different ways, and I was flying through 14 different countries over 18 days. So it was a very complicated flight. So I needed a massive insurance policy. And the only way that I would get approved to fly around the globe in this plane is if I took a co-pilot with me. Now, I understand that a lot of you will be disappointed when you learn that I had a co-pilot on my trip, and I still find it to this day when I talk about it, people go, oh, well. And I like to say to them, and I hope this gets a chuckle because I can't hear any of you out there, but I like to look back at them and say, when was your last flight around the world, right? There is no harm and no shame in working as a team. And Shane, who's the one in the middle, in case you were wondering, became my co-pilot on this journey. The very first time that we flew together was 6 years ago today, between Denver, Colorado and Oakland to kick off the flight. And we became such fast friends because Shane said, Amelia, I know this trip is about you and your mission and what you want to do as a woman. So I'm only here as a safety net. If anything goes wrong or if you get in trouble, I will be here to help you out. But right now, you are the pilot in command. And that to me was the indication that I had found the perfect person to partner up with here. So I put this list up, not so that we read every single detail along the list, but so you get an idea of what I was working on for the 2 years leading up to this trip itself. I mean, it was a lot. We had to build websites, we had to build fuel tanks, we had to get registration, we had to get visas, 14 countries for 2 different people. Every country I was flying through, especially through Africa, was so worried that we were there for the wrong reasons, right? It doesn't make sense to stop for 24 hours without spending any money in their country and just continue on. So it took a lot of coordination. And as I was getting ready to launch on my trip, I got a phone call from the Today Show. Now, this next slide is intentionally blank, so I really want you to focus and listen here, because this was the first time I was truly experiencing turbulence. And this is really the basis of what this talk is all about. Just a little water here. See, when I got that call from the Today Show, they wanted me to fly to New York, tell the story of my upcoming flight, and sort of see me off on my journey. So I got on a flight to New York from Denver, back of the United flight, made my way out there and had an incredible appearance. It was the morning, let's see, Al Roker was there, Natalie Morales was anchoring, Matt Lauer had the day off, which was probably a good thing. And from there, we had a great interview sitting on the couch, just chatting it up. They said, where are you going? Tell us about your route. Who will you take with you? What kind of special items will you have on your plane? And finally, tell us how you're related to Amelia Earhart. So of course, I had given my typical spiel that I had received from my genealogist that I hired in college. I said, well, my family always thought we were somehow distantly related to Amelia. So I looked into it and I found out that we're commonly related back through the 1700s, blah, 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 the whole story through Pennsylvania. And I said, but you know, we don't have the European records. I get back on the flight. The interview went so well and everything was positive until I landed back in Denver. My phone was ringing off the hook and I had calls from my boss at the TV station at NBC here in Denver saying, Amelia, we need to talk to you immediately. We have reason to believe that you lied on national television about who you are. And see, at this point, I had no idea what was happening. But it turns out someone who I work with took it upon themselves to research my family history. And without telling me, without even so much as letting me know that there could be a discrepancy, he announced it live on the news. So I started receiving messages in my email, my social media, that looked like this. I hope you crash into the ocean and die, just like the first Amelia did. See, everyone in Denver and beyond had been following my story. I was about to launch on this trip with a team of over 100 people back at home cheering me on, educational plans that had been launched for months with students getting ready to track this trip all the way around the world. And I had no idea who I was because my identity no longer belonged to me when it was put into question. The notes like this, way to go. You get a free flight around the world by lying about who you are. See, then I didn't even know who I was because my bosses came to me and said, Amelia, you've got the burden of proof. Go hire a genealogist, find out if you're related, and we'll go from there. So 2 excruciating weeks go by. I want to change my name. I want to leave the country. I just want to forget everything. I never want to see another airplane as long as I live. And I am so angry with my parents at this point because, well, they're not really living up to or owning up to why they really made the choice. And the fact that they had never really looked into the family history was becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And I was pretty angry with them, to be totally honest. So 2 weeks go by and I see a Salt Lake City phone number pop up on my phone. And I know it is time to understand what's really happening here. Who am I? Do I own this name? And where do I go next? Well, I answered the phone and I knew by the tone of the gentleman's voice who was my researcher from Ancestry.com. And this wasn't to sign up for the $19.95 a month situation. This was a full-blown, let's get the research done fast kind of situation. And he said, Amelia, I tried as hard as I possibly could, but I'm so sorry to tell you, you actually shared no common ancestry with the first Amelia Earhart. He said the last names through the years probably changed a bit. The first genealogist you hired in college probably wanted to string you along to upsell you to go research those European records to eventually find that there was no connection. And I had no idea who I was or who I wanted to be. So I had to go on live television and make this statement and just look directly in the camera and explain what happened, and people kept getting crueler and crueler. But I had a tough decision to make. Do I cancel the flight and live in embarrassment and let the outside situation take over? Or do I start thinking about it in a different way? How can I reach out to my mentors, my support group, to make sure that I can finish this flight? And sure enough, I called one of the most important people in my life here in Denver, and I said, what am I going to do? And he said, Amelia, I'm going to ask you a question. When you were born, in 1983, did the FAA walk into that delivery room with you and your parents and hand that little baby a pilot's license? Did they hand that baby an instrument rating, a commercial rating, the opportunities, these connections, this flight around the world? He said, of course not. He said, that's right. You have worked just as hard as any other pilot at this level of your training. And if you want to fly around the world, go and fly around the world. He said, it doesn't matter who you are related to. It matters who and what you choose to relate to in this life. And that's when I really realized that it was time to get out and make a difference. I had the choice to be more like Amelia by being less connected to her through my bloodline. And this quote really meant so much to me because it was shared with me the very same day. And that is a Paulo Coelho quote from The Alchemist: the world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. The people that were sitting at home, no, they're not the joyful ones, right? They're trying to break down the ventures that we're out there trying to accomplish. And I'll tell you what, I did finish that flight. And now, as I get through the last 10 minutes or so, I get to tell you about the journey itself, the flight around the world in the Pilatus PC-12 NG that was the most beautiful 28,000-mile mission through 14 countries. This is what the back of the plane looked like. It is typically outfitted like a Gulfstream in the back. It looks luxurious and glamorous, but this, we took the bathroom out, don't ask. We took the interior walls out to save weight, and that big metal box you see in the middle is our fuel tank. And that was another reason I needed a co-pilot. We had to physically, manually go back there and turn switches to release the fuel to connect with the main tanks on the plane. The views that I saw were just spectacular, flying over the Seychelles and the Maldives and into Singapore. Areas in the South Pacific that Amelia and her navigator, Fred Noonan, definitely saw when they were flying out there in the 1930s. And I can only imagine just how much has changed. And looking out the front of this beautiful plane here and seeing that one single engine and the propeller spinning out front and knowing that that was the risk I was taking to recreate this flight just meant so much to me. Some of the images here, you see the volcanic fields crossing over Africa. You've got kids meeting me out against the fence line in Papua New Guinea, and those clouds flying up against these extraordinary colors every morning and every evening over the water. In fact, I did the calculation, and of that 28,000-mile flight, about 80% of it was over the water, which is a really interesting thing when you've only got one engine. This right here is the International Terminal in Tarawa. What a place, right? Barely anyone around. Kilimanjaro there in the distance as I flew into Tanzania. The views and the storms kept getting bigger and bigger the further I went east as well. And this image is a 60,000-foot cloud top. So talk about turbulence there. If I were to fly that plane through a cloud like this, it would have the potential to rip the wings right off. So navigating and course correcting and adjusting my journey meant trusting that I know how to not only fly my plane, but trust the instruments and the readings that are coming in and the direction that I want to head next. Here in Papua New Guinea, volcanic fields were so active. And the views that I was getting in my emails started to change as well. You know, all that hate mail we talked about earlier, that was starting to subside. And I was getting messages like this. In the middle of the screen, it says, "I fly with Amelia," which is the name of the foundation that I started to put these young girls through flight school. And as I flew over Howland Island and circled, a very special thing happened at this point in the trip, because this right here is the island where Amelia Earhart wanted to land. This is Howland Island. See, in 1936, the US government built a runway just for Amelia. She was set to land. They would park the naval ship at the base of the island. She would sleep, they would get, refueled up, they would get nice rest and continue on to Hawaii. But Amelia never made it here. So at this point in the journey, I used Twitter in 2014 to hand out close to $100,000 in flight training scholarships to girls all across the country. And these are some of them here. I mean, in the upper right-hand corner, that young lady can't even spell pilot yet, but she is flying that plane. And that's her dad in the back seat watching her take flight. So as I start to wrap up here, I want to show you images that have accidentally replicated themselves. And I promise you, these are not staged. These are coincidences and the beauty of what can happen in this world if we decide that the world is ours to fly. Two Amelias crawling into two cockpits. Two Amelias showing two young ladies the cockpit of her plane, answering questions like, how high does it go? How fast does it go? What is your route like? Those two little girls walked into the plane and said, "Does this thing have GPS?" I said, "You bet, it's got two." And then finally, this picture here of two Amelias in two very different cockpits. But you know what? As sleek and sophisticated and advanced as the cockpit will continue to become and evolve to, the one thing that will never change is the look in the pilot's eye when you make that determination to set out on your route. So when we start thinking about turbulence, I want you to imagine a life without it. Flying through only blue skies, there's not much enjoyment. There's not much excitement there, sure. But when we survive the storms, we can then appreciate the blue skies and the ease. How good does it feel to slightly step back into real life as we've gone through the coronavirus pandemic? When things start to reopen, we appreciate them more, right? We're in the midst of this storm and we are stuck in a holding pattern. And as pilots, the thing that we hate most is being asked to enter into a holding pattern. The first thing we have to do is pull our fuel way back. We've got to slow it down, right? We're up there with a bunch of other airplanes and we're all sharing airspace and it's crowded, it's congested, it's annoying. We've got to pay attention the whole time because now we're playing by an entirely new set of rules that everyone has to agree with, right? Who's making up the rules? Well, air traffic control. But here's the thing, there's an art in exiting the holding pattern as well. And what I want you to consider while your teams and your businesses adjust and evolve through virtual meetings and situations like this, and we continue to hopefully get out of this Corona situation, I want you to imagine navigating and using all directions of your compass and your team's compass instead of just those 4 cardinal directions that most folks will rely on. Most people look at a compass and they see north, south, east, and west. Then there's a second group who sees maybe southwest, northwest, northeast. That's slightly bigger thinking, but I want you to know that your compass not only has 360 degrees on it, but in each one of those degrees, there is an infinite amount of opportunities to adjust your course and make your path more in alignment with where you want to head, right? Most people will only rely on those right-hand turns, the left turn, that 90-degree angle, right? We want to be able to stay flexible and fluid as we continue through. So as I wrap up here, this is an image of the plane that was shared with me just seconds before I finally touched down in Oakland, California. And the route went like this: Oakland, Denver, Miami, Trinidad and Tobago, Natal, Brazil, Dakar, Senegal, Sao Tome, Tanzania, Seychelles, Maldives, Singapore, Darwin, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Tarawa, then through Kiribati, Honolulu, and then all the way back to Oakland, 28,000 miles and 182.6 flight hours along the way. My mom got the very first hug as I hopped off the plane. There's Shane, my co-pilot behind me, and Shane's mom and my mom became really close during that flight because they had a lot to commiserate about, right? And I loved seeing them connect. The next hug, of course, went to my dad. And I love this picture because look at those hands. This is a man who understands turbulence. He met me with a big hug and he said, "You have no idea how hard it was to watch my little girl fly around the world." But I know in the end, he was so incredibly proud. So turbulence reminds us that we are in flight. You don't feel the bumps if you stay locked up in that hangar. And turbulence means it's time to course correct. We're not locked on train tracks up there in the sky. And also turbulence occurs when we're crossing mountains. We're going to higher elevations. And that's how we reach those new heights and can see that next horizon that's just beyond the distance. Now, on the day that I left, which would be 6 years ago tomorrow, I was met by Captain Tinarello at the Oakland airport, and just moments before I launched, he walked up to me and said, "Amelia, I have a favor to ask. Can you carry something on your trip with you?" And I thought, well, we're kind of stuck now. This is a little last minute, but sure, I'll think about it. And he says, "I had these patches made. I want you to carry one around the globe. I'm going to keep the other. When you get back, we'll swap patches." And I said, sure, why not? Let's go for it. So I took the patch and I tucked it in the pocket next to me in the plane, up against my insurance booklet there from Lockton. And as we were coming in for landing, I saw Captain Tinarello standing next to my parents. And Shane looked over at me, my co-pilot, and he says, "You better find that patch." And I pulled it out. And as the media rushed in, and as I greeted my parents and gave them both hugs, they looked at me and said, "Gosh, can we ask you some questions?" And I said, "Hang on, there's something I've got to do first." And I walked over to Captain Tinarello and I said, "Sir, we made a deal." See, he's the leader of the Civil Air Patrol in Oakland, and he also runs the Aviation Museum there at the Oakland Airport. And he said, "Amelia, thank you so much." And we swapped patches and he gave me this huge hug. And as I started to pull away, he held me in tight and he said, "Amelia, hang on, there's something I didn't share with you when I met you 18 days ago." And of course, with his age, I thought maybe he was sick. It turns out it was nothing of the sort. Captain Tinarello said to me, "Amelia, what I didn't tell you is that my whole life has been devoted to aviation, and I have been obsessed with airplanes, learning to fly and teaching others to fly and keeping this museum alive with its rich history. And when I was a little boy, I begged and begged and begged my parents to take me to the Oakland airport." And he looked me in the eye and he said, "Amelia, I stood right here and watched the first Amelia depart on her flight around the world. And I have been waiting 77 years to see her come back home. And you just brought her to me." And to me, that is what the flight was all about, connecting those connections, that imaginary string between the people and the strangers that I would never have met if I would have decided to give in to the belief that I didn't deserve to make that flight or deserve to have this name. So when turbulence arises, I really encourage you to get off your charted course that you've planned and know that the beauty is going to be in the turns that you make and the adjustments that you make along the way, the altitude changes and the descents, the bumpy climbs over mountains, because again, that turbulence reminds us that we're in flight. And in conclusion, the most beautiful question that was asked about the trip came from my father. He said, honey, when you get back from this big flight around the world, do you think the world will feel like a bigger or a smaller place? And now that I've completed the flight around the globe, I do know that the world is a much, much, much smaller place, only if we choose to make it that way. But it is so much bigger in terms of the beauty and the connection that is possible for all of us. Blue skies.
Thank you so much, Amelia. That was just extraordinary, and we are so pleased to have had you with us today. Thank you so much for the presentation and for joining us for our first ever virtual annual meeting. I want to express my thanks to our outgoing chair, Brian Schatz, and our incoming chair, Darren Harmon. Thank both of you. On behalf of the Chamber Board and team, we thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to another year serving our members. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.